Nerd Academy Podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy Podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy Podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. We got a good show. The studio looks nice and pretty because I think Joel and I finally cracked the lighting code. Knock on wood. It stays that way. It stays pretty. It's never been better. Everything looks cool as hell. And it is not just Joel and I. We are joined by your resident Green Lantern, Professor Travis Grossman.
Oh, that was really good.
I'm missing teeth. I in my infinite wisdom thought I'd be able to record a podcast the day I got teeth ripped out of my mouth.
I don't know the whole story there, and I'm sure this is a campus life story for sure, but can you give me a brief rundown of what happened?
I have basically never been to the dentist in my life until 3 weeks ago. And we finally got dental insurance this year. And I was like, oh, well, my teeth aren't bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just not going to worry about it. And then I started to get a toothache that quickly became a very bad toothache. Then when I went to the dentist, they were like, yeah, we're taking those out.
Okay.
ASAP. And I was like, please do. They hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And then they did. Now I feel a lot better.
Good. Amazing how that works.
I was going to say, he may have a couple less teeth, but he still has all the charm that you remember him for.
You can't tell because they're way back here.
Yeah. Those are the best teeth to lose.
Having some trouble chewing? Or are you going to get...
Nah.
All right, good.
I still got this side.
I can't remember what they said, and I'm really angry because I got distracted last night because I meant to text you when they said it. But I had somebody in the bar last night say some really Travis shit, and I can't remember what exactly they said, but it had the tone of a you joke, and I'm so angry that I'm blanking on what they actually said.
Was it just abstract screaming?
Something to that effect, just that that they weren't actually screaming, but what they said felt like the verbalization of what would be a scream into the void.
When I often will be just talking it up with friends, and someone will say something that is just so stereotypically Spencer or something. It's just, and then I just
that's some shit such and such would have said.
Yeah, so I get what you're kind of coming from, but all the time I laugh like Spencer. Sometimes, usually when I'm on the podcast, I go the kind of thing.
Yeah,
that he does. Sorry, I digress.
It's mildly strange, but it's okay. We love you. Also, where was this promotion for Falcon and the Winter Soldier when it was coming out? That's a really good poster. Regardless, we do have a little bit of news for you guys before we get into our discussion of the first episode of Loki. Our first story is going to be one on the sadder side of things. Today, at time of record, June 14th, Ned Beatty did pass away. As far as what we would know him from around these parts, he played Otis in the original Superman movies alongside Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. I was already kind of having the urge to go back and rewatch the old Christopher Reeve Donner stuff, and I feel like tonight at some point I'm going to, just in the name of Ned Beatty. So best wishes to him, his family. I was surprised by that. It's one of those things where it's this is going to sound really weird and stupid, that there are certain actors that melt into a character so hard that like you get kind of like jostled by the like, oh shit, that actor died, and you kind of forgot there was a real person. Like that's kind of how I am with like a lot of like older superhero movies.
Yeah, but think about it on the other end of things. Like
And he also has a lot
characters
more
are
to his name other than Otis. It's just that's the purview of what we would talk about.
like some characters. Well, sorry, some actors and actresses are just absolutely immortalized by the characters that they've played.
Yeah,
and I think that's something to be, I don't know, extremely grateful for.
Yeah, you'll always have right there, and he's funny as hell as Otis. Yeah, he and Gene have good chemistry.
I looked through his filmography, and I saw he was in the Superman movies, but I was convinced that you put this story in because he did a play in the 60s called The Great White Hope.
No shit.
I promise you it's on his Wikipedia.
Ned Beatty, you rest in peace, good man. I did not know. I did not see the Great White Hope thing. I was mostly
at the very bottom because he's only ever done like 2 live plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won awards for the second one. I don't remember what it was called, but the first one was in like the 60s, and The Great White Hope. Because of course.
Yes, the nickname that you will never not have in my Snapchat unless something remarkably else funny happens. I'm still proud of the fact that we managed to get your work friends calling you that as well. That was the crowning jewel moment.
That really didn't take much effort.
It may not have taken much effort, but that was just such a stupid joke that I was glad it was a contagion. Other than that, like we said, rest in peace, Ned Beatty. Great impact on performance art of his era. Story that I inexplicably forgot to put into the notes, and your name reminded me. E3 was this weekend. It was not a very
eventful. Still happening.
Technically still happening right now, yeah. I feel like we've already passed the threshold of a lot of the really big announcements. There was some new stuff for Halo. There was some Assassin's Creed Valhalla stuff, which Travis and I are going to be jumping back into with this new Ireland DLC.
I started it this morning.
You did?
Mm-hmm. They've made like half of Ireland into a map.
Well, I'm probably going to play some of it tonight, and I'm looking forward to getting back into Valhalla. I believe I was listening to Knowledge Fight, and it was Jordan, I want to say. His bright spot for the week was that he finally got talked back into picking up Valhalla again, and he was like, all right, I'm enjoying it now with the new DLC. So I felt nice that we were kindred spirits with Knowledge Fight in the going down the rabbit hole of Valhalla took something away from all of us on some level. But looking back to getting into it. But the big announcement that does have a bigger purview around these parts, the rumors that I deliberately didn't want to cover because I didn't know if they were true or not, we saw official confirmation that we are getting a Square Enix Guardians of the Galaxy game. I watched the gameplay clip, saw the trailer. It looks interesting, at least on a story level. Something that I thought was funny and speaks volumes about how broken some of the copyright law is around these parts. That there is a setting for streamers in sound where they won't play licensed music so that you don't get DMCA'd.
Yeah.
Which I am very much of the opinion. I know Philip DeFranco's brought this up on the PDS that like TikTok has proven that if you let somebody use your music for free, you're going to enjoy the back end of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the amount of songs that have gotten like these weird second lives after becoming TikTok trends. The joke we would make when we go to the bars, Zanzibar by Billy Joel. That became a TikTok meme. And then I was like, me personally, I was like, shit, I haven't listened to Zanzibar in a hot minute. And started, and like it like went back into my rotation. Stuff like that happened to a lot of people. You'll have these songs just kind of explode. That stupid Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf became a meme. I'm hearing it on the radio now. And that song became a meme in 2021, but was released in 2019. You know? So the fact that you still have all of the absurd DMCA takedowns because you played 10 seconds of a song on a stream or whatever, in my opinion, completely asinine and stupid. But to get around this, there's going to be a licensed music-free soundtrack that can play if you're streaming to avoid such nonsense. But Travis, I feel like your name says it all. But just to verbalize it, how are you feeling about the Guardians of the Galaxy? He's already shaking his head.
So literally, I've seen two reactions that lead to the same result. Either everyone watched the Square Enix panel, and all they talked about was Avengers and this game, basically. Everyone was like, okay, so nothing about Final Fantasy VII Remake and nothing about Final Fantasy 16. You wasted your E3 panel. Thank you, Square Enix.
Right.
Or, like me, I opened Twitter to see Guardians of the Galaxy game announced and was like, that sounds so cool. That's sweet. I wonder what's going on. Oh, it's made by Square Enix. I'm going to watch the trailer for, yep, this is just Avengers again. And I didn't like that game.
At least there's a more uniform, like, I will say this much. Character design wise, I think they did a much better job here than they did with Avengers. I think that, like, there's nothing that everybody came away complaining about the way that everybody went, hockey pad cap.
But, like,
I've seen a couple of people making jokes about Star-Lord. I know for you. I'm just talking about, like, on, like, the...
Yeah, I know he looks like Jake Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, he does look like Jake Paul a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, I just like, excuse me. I'm not like this game just doesn't look fun because I know Avengers wasn't fun for me. So the concept of like it's just going to be that again, but in space.
Well, here's the one interesting thing about it that I saw. Apparently, it is not going to be like an ensemble game where like you can play as Thor, Cap, or Iron Man. You can, from what I understand, you can only play as Star-Lord.
Huh. Okay.
And I know that like that. How does that change your opinion? Because I know you were having like some characters don't play as well as others type issues.
So my problem with Avengers was that they didn't like. No one felt unique. Like their animation was unique, but then how it felt playing as them didn't feel different. Like when I played as Iron Man, it felt like I was still playing as Thor, like I was still playing as Hulk, yada yada. And not like Hulk's attacks didn't do any more damage than Iron Man's did, or have any more knockback. So it just like felt like I was always hitting them with a wet noodle.
Yeah.
Like I have a pool noodle and I'm the Hulk, but I'm hitting them with a pool noodle.
Yeah. I mean, you could still smack them up a little bit, but at the end of the day,
it's just completely what aesthetically do you want the smack up to look like?
Yeah. Knowing that you're only going to play as Star-Lord, assumedly, like that changes things just because they can focus in on like making it feel good. I don't know what really the story of Avengers was. I didn't really care that much because I didn't like how the game played. But if it's just Star-Lord and gameplay doesn't feel unfinished, then because like it wasn't unplayable. It just felt like they didn't. It was like a C when it should have been like an A minus or a B plus.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed by this gameplay footage. or
I wasn't
trailer,
either.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed.
I mean, I haven't had my socks knocked off. I think, like, you know, I'll give it the same shot I gave Avengers. And I stand by what I said before. Whenever I'm eventually able to get my hands on a PS5, I am going to get Avengers because I would have gotten Avengers for my Xbox. But then they were like, oh, Spider-Man's going to be an exclusive only for the PlayStation. I'm not touching it then. I'm not touching it until like I have a PS5. I can play the graphically best version of the game with my favorite superhero.
They still haven't talked about
also-
Spider-Man at all since then, too. Like, they announced the Black Panther expansion, but nothing about Spider-Man.
Black Panther. I have mixed opinions on the Black Panther costume they're using because
I
like
haven't seen it.
there's certain parts of it that look cool. Yeah. The thing that I'm not super into is that they have a panther on his chest. Kind
Like
of. I would say I would Google it because I like everything about the suit except for that one element. There are like little studs in his helmet as well that I don't mind. I can go either way. It looks better at different angles, in my opinion. But the panther on his chest, I cannot stand.
I don't know if you could see that.
Yeah, actually, you can. The lighting's good. You can see it pretty well. Actually, here, yeah.
Okay, I don't hate it, but it's not great.
Yeah. It just doesn't look like very much detail and effort was put into it.
Yeah, here, I'm going to pull up an image and then cast it into...
It kind of looks like a Batman hybrid of Black Panther.
It does look
Doesn't
a little too Batman-y. I kind of agree with you, yeah. Here, let me get back into the stream here. Screen share.
Yeah, actually, it looks like the Batman Beyond skin from Arkham Knight.
Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of really does.
I think it's what's going on with the face mask, especially.
It's the paneling on the mask, and again, none of this bothers me that much, except for this. This really puts me off. I don't like. There doesn't need to be a Panther emblem on his suit,
and like
I can't think of a single other iteration of Black Panther that has that goofy looking symbol.
To be fair, we might not know it's him if he didn't have it. Right?
I mean, you got
be like,
there.
Well, damn,
like,
why that crossover with Batman?
Why does he need all that like padding? You know what I mean? It looks like he's padded up, like he's a goalie. Like he doesn't need the padding. He just needs...
Only you would have gone straight for goalie. I mean, you've seen what their version of Captain America looked like, right?
No, I haven't.
Google Square Enix Captain America. It is the worst Captain America suit ever.
Which it's
like he looks like he's wearing hockey pads.
It's the far end of like modern superhero costume design. We're moving away from the time of latex. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, that. No, you're absolutely right.
Like, yeah, we moved from they're going to be in just like fabric to, well, obviously it makes sense that these not superpowered people, especially, are in body armor of some kind. To now it's just like riot cop gear painted like the color of the hero.
Yeah. I will say, coming back to Guardians of the Galaxy, I like the comic MCU hybrid looks they're doing. Like Gamora has like the red tint to her hair, like Zoe Saldana's Gamora does, but like she has the white and black armor from the comics. Star-Lord is, he looks a little bit more like comic book Star-Lord, but he has kind of like the Chris Pratt regalia. Drax is actually green and red, but like way too red. Like there's just a blotch of red on his the red on his chest. It looks like it's like a pre-order or some type of early DLC. You get their old school classic outfits.
Oh, so I didn't see those.
They unironically, they look incredible. Like it's just that like we're gonna completely lean into the absurdity of this look. Kind of like the first appearance Batman outfit in Arkham Knight, where it's like he's got the trunks, he's got the goofy like crooked ears, he's got the purple gloves, and it's just that This is photorealistic, and this costume is goofy as shit, and we love it. But yeah, I am interested. I do want to give the game a shot, in terms of a demo. But like you said, it's been radio silent on the Spider-Man stuff. And unless I get that confirmation that I can play as Spidey at some point, I'm kind of not touching the game, period. I've heard interesting things about the Hawkeye DLC. Apparently, it takes you kind of through like an Old Man Logan style story where there's like the Maestro Hulk and shit like that, where like Hulk goes crazy and Hulk is the villain of the Hawkeye DLC, which is interesting. I don't know what the canonicity to this universe that has.
Yeah, that's
but I've seen
too.
clips
Like
and I've seen details. So.
That's kind of why I assumed that you were going to be able to play as all of them, because we have another diverse, layout of abilities as a group moving through a Marvel story that's happening maybe separate but in conjunction to Avengers, right?
Yeah. Apparently this one is also in its own universe, which is another head-scratching decision. Why not make this your new shared game universe?
I agree with that decision 100%. If you make it a shared universe, then like why not just make a DLC? Why not just make an expansion to Avengers or title it that? Because like I don't think shared universe games really works.
That's fair. I don't know. I've said it before. I'll always say it. I'm greedy. I'm always going to want shit to be in a shared universe. And a lot of that comes down to when you get at least one character right in a certain format. Now I want to see that character be able to bounce off of everybody. And that's how I am with Spider-Man. I want to be able to see the Yuri Lowenthal Spider-Man be able to bounce off of everybody. Speaking of which, I started replaying Spider-Man this past week. And the PS4 version, I forgot, now has the new face.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. Huh. It's not as distracting as I thought it'd be. It doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would. But it is very noticeable and doesn't quite track as well in the PS4 version.
Yeah, I'm going to have to play it again before the second game comes out just to get used to it.
Yeah.
Because it was distracting for me and Miles Morales. But
yeah, that's I'm going to take a break from Spider-Man to go all in and do the Valhalla DLC. But my plan is to finish Spider-Man again and then go into Miles, because I want to kind of get the full experience there. Also, one last unrelated thing. I was talking about this on Twitter last week, and I was telling you and Spencer about it. One of the newer suits they added is DLC. It was just an update in the same way that they were adding all other movie suits. They added what was it? I think it's called Advanced Suit Mark II. That it basically looks like the time heist suits the Avengers wear in Endgame. It's literally just the Spider-Man version of that. It looks so clean.
What was it called?
It's Advanced Suit Mark II, Spider-Man PS4. If you look through my Twitter, I posted a screenshot from the game. It's one of the most badass looking. That one, yeah.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
It's really slick. I like it a lot. But yeah, moving forward, guys, we have Lord of the Rings news.
Yes.
There's a reason Joel is here. There's a reason Joel is here, because Travis and I realized we were out of our depth on this one.
Listen, I'm so excited for this.
So I'm still not even sure how I'm supposed to pronounce this. So what's the name of this?
Okay, so this is called The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. So this is going to be a new was it a series?
Yeah,
anime series called The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. taking place in the Third Age and following prior 250 years prior to.
Actually,
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
J.R. Tolkien franchise headed back to the big screen in a fresh new line in Warner Animation anime.
So, correction.
The Lord of the Rings anime prequel.
Regardless, so personally, I'm not excited about the anime part, but like at the end of the day, a new Lord of the Rings thing is always welcome to me. That being said, I have some hot takes about the Hobbit trilogy, but that's beside the point.
I don't think your takes are that hot. I think your takes are kind of
fairly accurate,
uniform across nerddom.
So let's just get into this again. So it's a movie by New Line Warner Animation under Warner Brothers.
Yes.
Right? Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. It is going to follow Helm Hammerhand and the legendary battle that, quote, helped shape Middle-earth heading into Lord of the Rings. The anime epic will expand untold story behind the fortress of Helm's Deep. So we had reference to that within the mainly the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, whenever the big battle of Helm's Deep, I believe.
I'm just going to put the family tree you
ahead.
showed me up now.
I believe Hammerhand and the battle of in this War of the Rohirrim was referenced. At least I feel like it had been referenced. I'm not 100% sure on that. But so essentially, to connect how this falls into the timeline here with Lord of the Rings. So Theoden King is the grandson of Helm Hammerhand. So, and that takes place, again, it says roughly 250 years before the movie and during the Third Age. So personally, I'm excited to see it happen just because I'm a super huge Lord of the Rings nerd. But like at the same time, I'm not 100% sold that an animated movie is going to.
Okay, so here's Theoden. So
yeah. Theoden, son of Thengel.
Yeah.
Thengel and Morwen Steelsheen.
Yeah.
And they are, Thengel is the son of Helm Hammerhand.
Okay.
No, a sibling of what? How does this work? Scroll up. So Theoden.
Okay, so there's. Oh no, clicked on the wrong one.
So Theoden is the son of Thengel and Morwen Steelsheen, and Thengel is. I don't know what the hell is going on here with Thengel and Thengel.
I don't know, Joel. You're asking the wrong person. All I know is that Jake Hammerhand, host of Q Clearance, is going to be the main character of War of Raham.
Helm Hammerhand is up here, and they are the sibling of. I don't understand this. So maybe. Yeah, no, none of this makes any sense how this is laid out. But you can see it. You can figure it out yourself.
In terms of how this connects to characters from the movies. But yeah.
There are two generations before Theoden King. And in that generation is Helm Hammerhand. But going back to what I was saying, I'm not sold on the whole animated part. But
see, I've very much come around on the idea that you can do pretty much more in animation than you can ever do in live action. And I think a story like Lord of the Rings has a lot to gain from an animated story.
Fair enough. But like also after the Hobbit trilogy, that was an absolute failure in my opinion.
Well, it looks like this is a standalone flick. Like, it looks like this is going to be its own thing, and if it's animated, it may be more connected to the books than it is trying to be a prequel to the movies like The Hobbit was. So I think that they have, like, that leg up there. Also, this is not in any way, shape, or form connected to the Amazon Prime Lord of the Rings show that is in development that is also meant to be a prequel. To the books or the movies, I don't know. But Yeah, I don't understand how you guys keep up with the Lord of the Rings lore.
We don't. I don't think there's even like, I don't think it's ever possible to be completely honest with you. But now I'm just scrolling through the wiki fandom page for Lord of the Rings, trying to figure out like what the hell kind of relationship this is in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that just doesn't make sense. The whole spiel there.
I mean, either way, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to a Lord of the Rings anime.
I don't think you can be upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could be genuinely upset that they're coming out with more Lord of the Rings content. That I'm not upset about. I'm skeptical. You know,
you don't want it to turn into another Hobbit situation.
Exactly. And hopefully that doesn't become the thing, because most of the stuff that I hate about The Hobbit is how much they did not do practically.
Yeah, I hear that.
Like how much green screen stuff they did. It just like and there are interviews. I'm pretty sure there were interviews, but there are quotes of Ian McKellen talking about his role in filming The Hobbits and how he absolutely tried his darndest to keep it as real to the book as possible, even though oftentimes it went off completely. Another gripe I have. And there were additions and stuff, but he really fought for it as much as he could to keep it on track, as accurate to the book as he could. But not only that, he absolutely hated that he was stuck in a green screen room all day and he didn't actually get to do anything on scene like 90% of the time. And like that was like the bonding and the energy that came and the passion that came for the films, the original 3, from being able to film like in New Zealand, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, I think they are shooting on location for the most part for the Amazon show.
Yeah.
I think that's a part of the ungodly budget that it has. Because Game of Thrones created a TV space race where everyone's like, okay, I guess you throw movie budgets at TV shows now.
Yeah.
But no, I think the TV show will put some of those fears to rest for you. But here, I'm interested to see how it turns out. And like I said, I'm trying to make time at some point this summer to get back into the Lord of the Rings stuff and watch everything through. Because I feel like I owe it to myself to actually get into that franchise because I feel like I'd like it.
Yeah.
But with that, you ready to talk about a certain god
Loki?
of mischief?
Hell yeah, man. Like, okay, jumping right in here. Okay. Can we just say like that was a freaking amazing episode?
Okay, so Joel, you want to give us like your initial thoughts?
So as of right now, I can't say that I feel it was up to WandaVision's like bar. You know what I mean? Like if I'm using that as like a measuring stick,
I don't think you can fairly compare them. Like I think
WandaVision just in the writing,
is too weird. I think WandaVision is too weird and too unique as a show to fairly like put that next to anything. In the same way that you cannot compare Endgame to the rest of the MCU, because Endgame is able to do shit that the other movies can't. Endgame is able to just go in with the assumption and the conceit that you have watched all 22 movies leading up to this.
Right.
That you were completely on board.
It relies entirely on
the assumption that you have been into this from day one.
Sure.
And you're here to be down and you're here to clown. WandaVision is couched in it's kind of a mystery. It's kind of this. It's kind of that. We're doing this fun thing. We're paying.
But the writing was just impeccable.
Yeah, WandaVision is an incredibly well-written show. But a lot of that amazing writing, I think Jack Schaefer is able to flex her muscles so well there because the format of it.
Fair enough.
That like the writing is impressive on some level because we're watching the Scarlet Witch and the Vision recreate the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Fair.
So at least for me, like that's why I like, because I've been having the same impulse. Oh, how does Falcon and the Winter Soldier stack up to WandaVision? Oh, how's Loki?
Even Falcon and the Winter Soldier had impeccable writing. The bar had been like someone in the studio was just like, okay, this is where we're at. This is where I want us to be, and we're just all of these things that we're going to be pumping out are going to be next level altogether. And so I have high expectations of Loki. I really do. And so as of right now, I don't think one episode can tell you, where we're at.
No.
But the episode itself was super entertaining. I laughed so much, but also it was just so fascinating to see this entire new world, this entire new, and you get the multiverse lore, right? You start to get into multiverse lore, and I'm excited to see where that leads us in the Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I there's a clear through line that's being built here. I think that a lot of people, at least for me, my handling of how I'm going to be watching a lot of this is going to have a lot to do with I can't keep expecting this to be a direct lead into the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of my watching of WandaVision was, at what moment is this we're dovetailing into Doctor Strange now? And I feel like that polluted how I watched it, how I theorized, stuff like that, because that's part of the fun for me, is trying to crack the code, try to figure out what's going to happen. And I like that this show, like so far, at least for me, now that I have that in the back of my mind, that not everything is going to A into B into C, I'm a little bit more engaged in terms of what the hell comes next for Loki than I was for WandaVision, because everything had to add up to how, like, well, okay, this has to be the show where she's the one who breaks shit. She breaks shit, and then Doctor Strange gets involved. Where there's so much on the table now beyond that. So I do really want to talk about multiverse stuff.
Yeah. How about you, Travis?
I think that the reason WandaVision is kind of sitting up here to most people compared to Falcon and this show so far is just because we had the least amount of idea of what was happening in WandaVision.
That is also true. Yeah.
Right? Like of the shows, everyone went, okay, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I wonder what's going to happen in that show.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happened and we went, yes, okay. We all knew that.
Yeah.
We got, Loki, we have a pretty good idea of where Loki's going to end up. Or at least, there's less anticipation for, what does all of this mean? At least to me. Versus WandaVision, where it was just, we have no idea what's going on. Everything's in black and white, and sometimes things get really uncomfortable, and then they don't anymore. So
that's a beekeeper. What's that about?
I think I'm both disappointed and excited that they kind of really fast-tracked Loki's character development. Because they made this big deal back in the early stages of remember, this is the Loki out of Avengers, not Avengers Infinity War Loki, who has had his whole character arc.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something to look forward to a little bit. It's we have villain Loki as the main character. Interesting. And in one episode, they just fast forwarded him up to Avengers Infinity War.
I wouldn't quite say he's up to Infinity War quite yet. I think that I think for the first time we're going to see Loki truly kicked in the dick as a character. And he's just going to kind of marinate on that. Because I don't get, this does not quite yet feel to me like the Loki who's going to go for the Hail Mary on Thanos just to distract him from Thor. or just to like give the Hulk an opening?
I think one of two things. Either we are there, like he self-actualized very quickly from seeing all of that. I mean, like, he saw his whole life in front of his eyes, literally. So
Yeah.
that's a lot, you know? And then so if either he's already just there and that's where we continue from, or we're going to get this Loki that, like, thinks he has to be like that and tries to do good things, but, like, keeps really mucking it up. And then eventually ends up at a point of, like, no, I just like, I like being a jerk.
Yeah.
You know?
This is fun for me.
And we end up in this, like, weird middle ground. But when I predict things like that, they never happen. So I'm assuming the first one.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm very... What happens with Loki as a character here is really interesting. Because for these kind of live-action adaptations, it's not often that you get the opportunity with the same actor and the same continuity, you know, within the same universe. Obviously, there's going to be some continuity shenanigans here. It's not often that you get to go, okay, this is the direction we went with his character, where slowly he and Thor, like, they were a thing, but Loki resented him and Thor looked down on him, and they grew apart, and then they came back together, and then Thor lost Loki. Now they have an opportunity to be like, okay, what else can we do with Loki? How else can we make him become not a villainous character, maybe not a superhero, maybe not an Avenger, but what else can we do with him? And it's one of those rare opportunities in these situations that I feel like the writers are already like recognizing great opportunities for it. Because I really like what they did in this first episode, where they were like, all right, hotshot, this is what happened. This is what was supposed to happen. You became a not piece of shit and then died immediately after. But yeah, Travis, you have any other like initial thought type stuff?
No, not really. I mean, it was really good.
Yeah.
You know, like, at this point, I just assume these Marvel shows are going to be spectacular, like, at base, and then work their way up from there. So, yeah.
I am inclined to agree with you on that. I think that there's the MCU TV, not that I think there's any expectation that it would be bad, has very quickly done the same cementing act that the movies did, where you're never going to assume, like it's you. Most people aren't going to assume going into an MCU movie that they're going to get something that's meh. Like, you are going to get a high-end action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like a really high-end action movie pretty much every time you put your ass in a seat. And the MCU TV, I think within 2 shows, now 3, are also putting that flag down. And I also think that Disney Plus, just as a streaming service, has finally, now that it has multiple shows airing at once, because I think that Mighty Ducks show, High School Musical, the series, The Bad Batch, and Loki are all kind of happening at once. So now there isn't that weird content drought of, oh yeah, like, you can put Disney Plus on for your kids, but you're, as an individual, you're only super engaged whenever The Mandalorian's coming out, or WandaVision, or whatever.
I will say, though, I'm curious how long this keeps up, right? I have a feeling, I don't know when it'll happen, but that there will be a dip in quality somewhere. And, like, it'll dip and come back. I think it was going to happen because, you know, capitalism. Eventually they'll get to a point where, like, they're not getting new subscribers from this show. No one got Disney Plus to watch Loki.
No.
Like by the numbers. They already had it to watch Mandalorian. They already had it to watch WandaVision because it was in the zeitgeist. They already had it because, like, oh, sweet, we get more Captain America content. Or when Clone Wars was coming out. Or they just had it for their kids. So, like, no one is starting their Disney Plus subscription, like, relatively speaking, to watch Loki. And that's going to start paying off further and further down the line, where by the time we get to, like, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, they haven't netted any new revenue since. And even though they're making money, they're the biggest streaming service of all time, right? So even though they're making the money, they're not seeing the profits go up. So they're going to start cutting the budgets just here and there, nickel and diming everything. And I don't know what show we're going to see that in, but I think that we could, like, in the next year or two, right? The offshoot from that, like the way they might offset that, is how these movies affect MCU Disney Plus releases with the Premier Access. If, like, they Premier Access Black Widow and its Premier Access rate is through the roof, right? If 25% of people that are on Disney Plus pay the $30, they'll look at that and go, oh, okay, so keeping the budget high works, because then when we put the movies on, we get the extra coin that way. And we're already, like, the money for the movies is already there. We don't have to worry about that, you know?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting hypothesis. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I do know from what all the reporting that's happened, Loki has the biggest premiere day streams. This is the biggest premiere date for Disney Plus to date. So it's standing head and shoulders above Clone Wars Season 7, like the first episode, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Bad Batch. Then, you know, and again, like, is that all people who already had it? You know, like I think you're right. I don't think Loki is well, shit, I got to get Disney Plus.
Like, it is for somebody. Somebody, like, you know, a handful of people, a couple hundred, were like, oh, okay, I guess now finally the time. Like, I was excited when they announced this. I guess I'll pick up the free subscription to try an episode, see if it's worth it, see what else is on there, whatever. But yeah, and granted, like, there is always, like, the Fairy Tale Land option where they realize how much money they're making, and that the way to keep the people there, right, instead of focusing on making the profit go up, keep your already high profits where they're at, and just go, well, we're just going to funnel this money into cool Marvel and Star Wars and whatever else shows. And now, yeah, you're going to watch Moon Knight because you know these shows were good, and we put just as much effort into this, so you're going to watch Moon Knight.
The streaming model is definitely really interesting and not one that I fully understand quite yet. And I think a lot of it, and this is rampant speculation. I feel like the streaming model is relying on merchandising a lot more than the TV model. And I say that because shit like Mandalorian Mondays, the way they went, okay, well, we all know that, you know, Baby Yoda, the child, Grogu, whatever, is going to sell like hotcakes. We know this is free friggin' money right here.
Yeah.
You know, like we're gonna put this cute little fuck on everything, and it's gonna sell like, you know, garbanzo beans, right? Then they didn't do any Grogu merch for season 1 because they didn't want to spoil that ending of the premiere. They didn't want to spoil the little finger touch at the beginning of at the end of the pilot. So all the Baby Yoda merch ends up getting pushed off until like maybe a couple months after the show stops airing, right? Well, then season 2 rolls around. They're okay, Mandalorian Mondays. Every Monday, we're going to do a merch drop that is somehow connected to the episode you just watched. So we're going to have character posters, character merch, action figures, and bullshit like that all drop for the Mandalorian the next like 3 days after the episode airs. Okay, so we finally got to see Bo-Katan. All right, well, here's the Bo-Katan Funko Pop. Here's the Bo-Katan action figure. Here's a Bo-Katan character poster. Here's Casca Greaves character poster. Like, here's all this shit.
Mhm.
Same with WandaVision, where like there came a point where it was like, okay, after the finale aired, how long did it take for it to be White Vision, Scarlet Witch outfit, three different versions of Scarlet Witch's outfit as a Funko Pop? Right, and then the action figures. Here's Agatha Harkness and like the actual Agatha Harkness outfit. Boom, 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 boom. They're spitting this shit out. A couple weeks out from Loki coming out, we have Prisoner Loki, TVA Loki, Owen Wilson, all action figures, Funko Pops. Like, I know it's Mobius, but I kind of enjoy calling him Owen Wilson.
Do you think they purposefully moved? We're getting into some deep stuff that isn't about the episode because I watched it a week ago. I can't remember half the shit that happened in it. Do you think they moved it to Wednesdays so that the merch drop day would be like a Friday or Saturday so that people were just getting paid?
That would be funny.
That's some big brain plays there. Like, I can't even be upset about that. That's just smart.
I want to lean into that, but then like part of my like, okay, how does Disney's model work is just because they already gave like Bad Batch Fridays, and it's going to be going until August. That was going to be the designated day, but I kind of love that idea that like, okay, new Loki merch. Oh, you just got your paycheck. Isn't that nice? Listen, there were some of those Mando Mondays were hard for me because that was like right in the heat of my like after Halloween. I, for the most part, don't buy myself shit anymore because that's I'm saving up to go ape shit for everybody for Christmas, and I get paid on Mondays. So Mando Mondays, it's just like, hey, here's 18 different versions of that little baby you love so much. And all the while, I know we're building this while Mando Mondays are going on for season 2. So I'm like, how many Grogus do I want to put in the studio? Well, I think maybe just the one directly behind us should work. I bought a Grogu weeks before we were ready to actually start furnishing this place just because I couldn't not have him. I officially buckled. So I'm glad that the Loki shit is on a Friday because I know that I'm going to be a little less quick on the trigger with it. But yeah, I think the streaming model and the way the merchandising, I think that's their superconductor right now is the way they're doing that. It makes perfect sense. Because it's all going to the same company right now. Now there's no middleman almost. There's practically zero middleman right now. And the way that like a lot of these collectibles and the merch, you announce it and you put it on pre-sale or pre-order or whatever, and then it vanishes. So you immediately get all the returns directly to you on that first announcement. And then after that, eventually you'll do the public release where now it's at Hot Topic. Now it's at Target. Now it's at Walmart. Now it's at FYE. But after the point where your known money makers were able to go apeshit on pre-orders. That said, when they start doing this shit for stuff like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Moon Knight, I am going to be a nightmare to be around. Because I know, okay, we're getting our first real Jedi show for Disney Plus. You put that symbol on anything, I'm buying it. Come time for Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm gonna be that front of the line asshole. The only thing that's gonna keep me from doing it might be shirt size issues. That might be the only thing that keeps me from blowing a paycheck after Obi-Wan Kenobi drops.
Yeah,
I think that's their loop. I think that's their thing. And at least, and again, Twitter isn't the real world. We all kind of end up in an echo chamber no matter what we do on Twitter. Every Monday during season 2 of The Mandalorian, I saw the same thing. I saw the same, oh, sweet Jesus. Oh, God, look what I did. It's like, I'm gonna pretend I didn't just drop a pretty buck on like 8 new Funko Pops that I don't have room for. But boy, howdy, did I like this episode of The Mandalorian. And that guy in the background who got shot between the eyes by Din looked cool while he was still breathing. I think that's the model that they're going with. But back to Loki specifically. In terms of like bigger concepts I want to jump into, I want to talk about how the Infinity Stones work, because I have seen so many people like I'm having PTSD flashbacks to The Last Jedi, where it's like, whoa, you did this thing, and now all this other stuff doesn't mean anything anymore. And it's like, well, it is the same freaking argument every couple of years, and I can't take it anymore. If you aren't paying attention, and I don't mean this in a gatekeepy way, but if you don't know shit about the comics, which you're allowed to love the shows and the movies and also not know dick about the comics, one is not a prerequisite for the other. But before you start bitching and complaining and being like, oh, well, I guess all of this doesn't matter anymore, maybe fact check that before you go all the way in on that. With the Infinity Stones not working within the TVA headquarters, I think there's 2 different explanations that might also just be the same explanation, but it's happening in 2 different directions to arrive at the same conclusion. So with the way that the MCU has established time travel with Dragon Ball rules, it creates and this was a thing that I was curious about with Endgame, where
I think I know you're going with this, and I think you might be right.
So going all the way back to the comic book comment, and this is something you may not know. So just for everybody and Joel, within the comics, in terms of multiverse, multi-dimensional shit, Infinity Stones, and namely the Infinity Gauntlet, do not function outside of its home dimension.
Okay.
You have to be tethered to your native dimension for those Infinity Stones to affect the universe around you. That's why, a lot of the time when people talk about, Thanos versus Darkseid, it's like, that's a one-sided fight if it isn't happening in Thanos' home turf, because he can't use the gauntlet otherwise. So Avengers Endgame introduces the idea, Dragon Ball logic, time travel creates an alternate dimension. You are not altering your timeline. You are creating a branch reality. You're creating another dimension. So Avengers Endgame creates this weird thing where it's like, we're not going to follow the alternate reality time or the Infinity Stone rule, where you're technically bringing that time stone from an alternate reality to your own. Therefore, meaning you've bypassed the rule on the Infinity Stones not functioning in their native.
No, not necessarily, because it's part of that pure timeline. You can go back in time. You taking it from your timeline creates a branch reality without it.
I'm getting there.
But then you go back and you heal the branch and get rid of it yourself by putting it right back.
Well, here's the thing, though. How do they have a drawer full of Infinity Stones?
So I think what's going on there is, and the way I interpreted that was, the Infinity Stones are how a lot of people end up becoming variants.
Yes.
If they bump into one by accident. Which creates the branch timeline, right? They undo that variant.
The whiteboard.
He's thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
I was mostly kidding. I didn't want to make you get up. I'm sorry.
So that makes the variant timeline. They pull the person in, right? Let's say it's this might be like the 8th Loki they've had in, pulls in Loki, and they're like, "Hey, no, bad Loki, no space stone for you, bad boy." They yeet Loki, which cuts off that variant timeline. It doesn't exist anymore, but they're still holding the Tesseract. Like that, they still have that block, and now the timeline it would be a part of doesn't exist, so it doesn't function anymore. Right? And maybe by that logic, then Loki's Tesseract should still work. But then also maybe the loop ended up getting closed off somehow because Loki's there, and now that it doesn't work again. I don't know.
So this is where I think things come together, and it's kind of related to what you were saying. That the branch timelines are all still in the same universe. And that the reason they aren't functioning is that the TVA is basically the only timekeeper sanctioned parallel reality. And that is why the Infinity Stones are null and void.
I want to say something really quick.
Yeah.
When Doctor Strange saw all of the possible futures, his destiny wasn't in his hands. Because the timekeepers predestined that the timeline was protected by them. When they selected the pure timeline, they selected the one that they survive in.
I think we're going to end up finding out that the timekeepers in some way, shape, or form are horseshit. That is one of my big predictions. And I think we're going to have a big villain. We're doing Mephisto all over again. I'm kidding. It's not Mephisto. I think this comes back to a different villain, though. At the very least, the implications of one. And I know I'm batting a goose egg on that one after one of the shit.
Well, we haven't had, we have to introduce a new villain, right? We don't have one right now.
No, I kind of like the idea that most of these shows have been without a big bad. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to realize that there's, in some way, shape, or form, the timekeepers are horse shit. And that a lot of what they do has less to do with organizing, basically controlling against free will, and more to do with this is falling too far out of the bounds of the sacred timeline, in air quotes. Because we keep seeing them look back at those tablets, the little data pad thingies, and we see that it gets up to a certain bar of oh shit, we need to go back. That I think that, then in Miss Minutes, which I didn't realize that was Tara Strong until I saw the credits. I did not recognize her. The way that Miss Minutes explains it is oh, okay, well, you were late for work today, and now you've done shit on the timeline. I think that's kind of I think that is the over controlling TVA propaganda version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something as something as serious as Loki is not apprehended by the Avengers and imprisoned on Asgard is, oh shit, something went wrong territory. Right? But, and even though it's the example they give, me being late to work tomorrow, or if you go to Subway tomorrow and you decide to get a club sandwich versus a tuna sandwich, that's the kind of shit that they don't have to necessarily control for. You're not going to get beat with a time baton over something relatively inconsequential, unless it will start a domino effect that you picked the tuna sandwich, you realized how much you like tuna, you started a tuna company, and you put out this other company that has a billionaire in it who's going to fund the cure to cancer. If you knock down a domino with your tuna sandwich, then they're going to come beat you with a baton.
Like Loki going to Asgard, getting his mother killed, development of Thor's like huge Thor character development and whatnot. Blah 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 blah.
Well, I mean, let's just take this a step further. Let's consider what happens within the reality where the Tesseract is missing because Loki escapes an Endgame. If Loki's just gone to the wind, I don't think Thor can beat the Dark Elves in Thor: The Dark World. I don't think he does it by himself. I don't think he's able to get the drop on Malekith. I don't think he can get the drop on Malekith unless he pulls that stunt in the Dark Realm with Loki. Like I like Loki's an integral part in the Thor being able to beat Malekith and beat back the Dark Elves.
Yeah.
So maybe Thor loses in Thor: The Dark World. Earth is lost to the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves have the Reality Stone now.
Yeah.
That changes how Thanos handles his conquest. You know, at that point, the Avengers are down, like at that point in time for them, they're down their strongest man. So they can't fall back on Wanda, who at that point, even if she was involved, isn't developed enough with her abilities. Hulk isn't going to be able to do jack shit. They don't have Captain Marvel. They don't have the Guardians of the Galaxy. They don't have all these other players on the board. The Avengers fall fighting the Dark Elves. So that entire Earth, like again, like there's that domino effect of like beyond just, okay, well, what the Loki can't be in prison now and he can't become a better character. He can't become a better person. Earth is destroyed by the Dark Elves in Thor: The Dark World. That becomes Avengers Infinity War. For all intents and purposes, Thor: The Bad Thor is the most important movie. That is the Phantom Menace of Star Wars at this point, or of the MCU at this point. The movie where like you remove one piece from that equation, everything is different now.
Yeah.
So I don't quite think the TVA are being entirely honest with what will set off a chain of events that ends up in, oh no, sound the alarm type shit.
Unless they are literally like a ginormous company that takes care of literally every decision.
I think the Timekeepers in some way, shape, or form are horseshit. I think that they cleaned up the multiversal issue and that we're down to maybe like
I mean, you did look at that processing center, the DMV.
Yeah.
It was pretty empty.
I think it is down to a reality and a half. We have the sacred timeline Earth that the entirety of the MCU has happened on, and then I think in its own pocket reality, we have the TVA. And within the timeline and universe that the MCU is inside of, you have the 9 realms and branch timelines that were created and then closed back up by the events of Avengers Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
All of that said, I think that the TVA being in its own reality, mixed with my hypothesis that branch timelines don't mean branch realities, is why the Infinity Stones aren't functioning within the TVA. And that come Multiverse of Madness, like, or even Spider-Man No Way Home, when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire start showing up, the time stone attached to the reality that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man comes from will not function in Tom Holland Spider-Man's universe. I think that is where that issue starts to pick up.
Okay.
That's my hypothesis on how I think the time stones are functioning. Could be completely wrong. I could be entirely wrong, and I'm okay with that. But that is how I am interpreting this and gathering this.
Mm-hmm.
And before we talk more like deep lore, world building stuff, I do just want to take a moment and say Owen Wilson was such a good pick for Mobius. That I agree. Enjoying every second of him on screen.
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't going into this like, oh, it's Owen Wilson. I'm not going to be able to get into it because it's going to be wow memes the whole time, right? I wasn't somebody who was boohooing the casting decision because
he played it well.
The MCU has never missed with casting. And it was just the way he engages Loki, his chemistry with Tom Hiddleston, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Oh, the scene with the television back in time thing. Oh, so good. And the humor too. The little remote and the collar. Like, but
now it's not going to mean as much.
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
When he does like the get up to walk away angrily thing.
Oh, okay.
I was doing a thing. And it's like, oh yeah, go ahead. Now it's not going to mean as much.
It was such a great scene. Like they bounce off of each other really well, and I can't think of anybody who off the top of their head would have gone other than the people who do the casting for the MCU, who are just absolute gods at what they do. Who off the dome would have been like, you know who I bet has really good chemistry? Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. Right? Like just off the dome. Like I think they'll have a good.
So who do you think asked first, the studio or did Owen Wilson come?
I think they went to Owen Wilson. I think if Owen Wilson was trying to get into the MCU, his knee jerk wouldn't have been Time Agent Mobius.
That's so funny.
Also, I just love the concept of time cops.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a cab unless you're like going between timelines, I guess. But like it's just it's just such a fun concept, and I'm very entertained by it.
What is the other movie that has like, I don't know, some entity that hunts you? Oh my gosh, it's The Flash.
Ew.
In The Flash, you have, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Speed Force Wraiths or whatever they're called. I don't remember.
Yeah. Come out of the Speed Force when he messes with time.
I hate it.
It stopped showing up eventually because they forgot about them.
Oh, speaking of The Flash, Travis, did you see the clip from this week's episode that was all over Twitter?
No.
So this was Cisco's last episode. And at one point, they just had Cisco and Barry breakdancing in the Star Labs HQ. And then the episode ends with Cisco like freestyling and beatboxing in the living room. And it is just as horrible and cringy as you think it is. Okay. More theorizing. And I promise it's not Mephisto.
I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
I have a pizza in the oven. If you guys want to theorize, that's cool. But I might go eat some pizza.
I encourage you to go eat some pizza.
Because I have no theories. I just really like this. I like the episode. I'm excited to see where the show's going.
Okay, I'm just going to say this, and then I want to just get your initial reaction of it, and then go eat pizza. Okay?
Okay.
Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, it checks out.
Two of the timekeepers are blue. In the little cartoon, we see the one in the middle looks very Kangish. The statue in the middle looks very Kangish. And that time judge who sits right in front of that statue is a known love interest of Kang the Conqueror. Could still be very wrong.
I mean, like, at least give us some setup for Ant-Man, right? Because we know he's going to be an Ant-Man. But
and Kang is a time traveler.
Yeah, no, I think that checks out.
Timekeeper gone rogue.
Maybe he's the only one that set up.
Maybe he's the only one who's still alive.
Ah.
With that, Travis, I'll do all your plugs at the end. Go eat some pizza, buddy.
Thank you. Have a nice show, guys.
We will. Thanks. Bye-bye.
And we're alone.
And then there were two.
And then there were two.
But no, so Kang the Conqueror is confirmed to be the villain for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Okay.
Like I said,
we're getting into all this time shit. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I'm like
Ant-Man and
guys, I went all the way in on Mephisto. Okay, I admit it, and I was damn wrong, but I gave up on it, and I admitted I was wrong. And maybe I'm wrong again about Kang the Conqueror. but like this feels more real than the Mephisto stuff in WandaVision.
It actually, what I heard so far from you, just briefly, made 100% sense. So,
Like I think the angle of it being a rogue timekeeper,
yeah,
who's maybe allowing this other Loki, which here's another fun little tidbit. And I will say, I saw this online. I got a little bit of this from New Rockstars, but I was on the same wavelength, and I was kind of thinking the same thing. And then EA Voss, because that man works quicker than anybody in this business, beat me to it. So I'm ripping him off a little bit, but we were on the same wavelength.
Owen Wilson is the time guy.
No, we already have an actor cast to play Kang the Conqueror for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
That would have been nice, though.
I like Owen Wilson in this role.
Like, what
I
if-
can't
because
see Owen Wilson playing Kang the friggin'
But
Conqueror.
remember, he went up to the judge lady and had that little flirty moment. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think it was flirty.
It was flirty.
I think Owen Wilson's just
He was like,
fun.
"Look, I'm always looking up to you."
I think he was being more sassy and sarcastic. But oh, Joel. Okay, so whenever we see Loki's paperwork,
Yeah.
we see confirmation, and this is a thing from both the comics and Norse mythology, essentially, that Loki is gender fluid.
Oh,
So, like, Happy Pride Month. There's some good representation,
I didn't notice that.
but
I wasn't looking at the paperwork.
that's okay. But confirmation. It's also in the credits. Loki is confirmed as gender fluid.
Okay.
I think that the evil Loki that's burning shit down is a woman. And I think they're doing femme Loki, and that was a thing in the comics where he ends up possessing a body that was originally meant for Lady Sif to reincarnate into, but then Loki put his shit in there and started piloting that body. But I think it would be interesting. And there's a woman who we got casting announcement for, who kind of looks the part of a female Loki. It's a popular idea. It's happened in the comics. We're already getting like vote Loki, President Loki, right? That we've seen in the trailers. I think that would probably be one of the coolest things they could do.
What, in another timeline?
I don't think it's another timeline. I think it's
Branch?
just I think it's the easiest way to tell them apart.
Oh, as
Is
the
that
evil
since
one.
Loki is gender fluid and he can change his
Right.
appearance at whenever
As
he
the
wants
evil
to,
Loki that's terrorizing the timelines.
you
it's a
have that
female
be
Loki.
the female Loki.
That'd be cool.
That would be so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Because he can change his appearance on a dime.
Yeah.
And like that could be part of him, like, you know, being gender fluid. And then because it's cool to have it like confirmed that that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's even better to have it shown. Like in the
Yeah.
same way that they were like, oh, hey, with Solo, a Star Wars story, we are announcing officially that Lando Calrissian is pansexual. Cool. Show me Lando hitting on someone who isn't a woman.
Right.
And granted, we kind of get that with him, like having the hots for L337, and there's like he has like a relationship with a droid, but like you can debate all day long that that confirms him as pansexual or whatever, and like
Sure.
the nature of that with him being attracted to a droid.
Yeah.
But like actually showing Loki like outside of the gender binary in some way, of him going from like Tom Hiddleston to potential Lady Loki, I think that would be cool as shit.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to differentiate them. And if it's confirmed that it's Loki who's terrorizing the timeline, why didn't they just show us Loki's face behind the hood?
Right.
Now, I think that, and again, I don't think that the whoever like the person terrorizing the timeline is not our big bad in terms of like Kang the Conqueror.
Right.
I think we will get it. I think we'll maybe get an introduction to Kang. I think we'll see if like,
In the second episode?
no, I don't know about the second episode. Yeah, this is going to be a 6-episode joint. Like
I
Falcon
think,
and the
but
Winter
I
Soldier
like
was.
what you're saying. I think the reason they haven't shown the face yet is because they
There's
have
a
a bigger
reveal.
reveal.
There's a big reveal as
Yeah.
to like why it's a different Loki.
Yeah.
Right. And it could be same timeline, just Loki when he was, in that moment of, I feel I'm in a more feminine
He's also
feeling right
lived
now.
a very long time.
He's also lived a very long time, right? He's DB Cooper. We're going to see Pompeii. So he was involved in Pompeii in some way, shape, or form, or he's just there to witness it. Yeah, well, clearly they've been watching a lot of Doctor Who. The criminal with a blue box joke that they make,
Sure.
where it's like, oh, haha, very subtle.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really cool route to take it. And I think that like Lady Loki is the main villain. And I think that in terms of how we see Kang, if we see Kang the Conqueror at all, it will have more to do with finding out the true nature of the Timekeepers. Now, I think part of my
that might be a
assumption-
multiverse of madness kind of stuff.
I don't know. I think finding out about the Timekeepers here lays the groundwork so the multiverse of madness and No Way Home can hit the ground running.
Then on that front, maybe like because you have that moment where Loki's like, "Is this the greatest power in the universe?"
Well,
Like,
here's
you know that this Loki is still looking for the power. Like he's still looking to rule the universe. Like that's still like we've already seen his redemption story. I think you can go a whole different way here. And I think he would naturally be extremely curious at who the Timekeepers are. Like that would be something he would absolutely do.
And that's where I think we find out either what we're told is bullshit, or there's only one left and it's Kang, or there's only one left and it's Kang and he killed the other two.
Yeah.
And he's up to something. And maybe I don't want to necessarily say that other Loki, and I don't want to say Fem Loki because I don't want to confirm that out loud, speculate responsibly. But I think that other Loki is either being indirectly and unknowingly facilitated by Kang the Conqueror, or Kang is just kind of turning a blind eye and letting it happen. I don't want to say that I think other Loki is working for Kang or they're working together.
That might be taking it a little too far.
But here's what I'm saying though. I think we find out the Timekeepers are bullshit and that Kang is up to his own thing and he's letting this happen because it makes his job easier. Because in terms of the movies we're getting, like in order of when we get them, the next MCU movie is Black Widow. That's not going to have anything to do with multiverse shit.
No.
After that, if I'm not mistaken, is Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings. Mm-hmm. Not going to have anything to do with the martial arts shit.
No, we're
with the multiverse shit. It's going to be all martial arts shit. Probably no multiverse shit.
Yeah.
Eternals might deal with it a little bit. I think it's going to be more
of a
space.
hinting kind of thing.
I think it's going to be more of like a space ethereal thing.
Yeah.
More than like magic cosmic.
Sure.
Then No Way Home, which assuming everything we've heard is true, which at this point we have like actors telling us this shit's true. Mm-hmm. That is going to be the movie where the multiverse shit is going to be present. Loki needs to do a lot of groundwork to allow for the chaos.
What was the Spider-Man movie we watched, the animated
Into
one?
the Spider-Verse.
Like, and you see so many different Spider-Men.
Yeah.
So like it would make sense that you could introduce that back into Spider-Man.
Yeah, because then that's basically dead to rights what's happening with No Way Home. No Way Home comes out December of this year. And assuming I have the timeline of MCU releases right, the next MCU flick to come, like movie to come out after that, is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
In March of 2020, on my birthday, actually. So Loki has to set a lot of groundwork so that Spider-Man and Doctor Strange can hit the ground running with the weird multiverse shit.
Yeah.
Like they really
got to push this. It's going to be packed full of exposition.
Unless Spider-Man is the movie that is what breaks the multiverse. Because there was a story leak, and I'm not going to get into it too deeply here. Because if it's true, I do not want to spoil the entirety of the movie for anybody who's watching or listening.
Sure.
And I also don't want to give potentially bogus reporting too much airtime. But if this script leak that I read is true, it could also be that like there's all this weird shit and like the multiverse at this point is on its like it's that last straw on the camel's back where if you add one more, shit is gonna go just absolutely all over the place.
Well, they seem to have things in order right now, so I don't know if that's a facade or we got a lot of shit.
And I'm not going to say whom or what or how, but it is one of the villains of No Way Home who caused the multiversal shift, allegedly. Okay. So it is not that the multiverse is already coming apart at the seams by the time No Way Home begins, which is what I'm assuming happens. I'm assuming that No Way Home begins with a non-Spider-Man, non-his rogues gallery breaking shit. That shit breaks at the beginning of No Way Home, and at the same time shit breaks, we get the multiversal Sinister Six. Could be wrong. This script leak could be correct. And the Sinister Six, the multiversal Sinister Six, I'm not going to say who, what, when, where, how, and the timeline breaking are the same event. And this Sinister Six breaks the timeline in some way, shape, or form somehow. And then Multiverse of Madness is Strange going, okay, well, this jackass broke everything.
Ah, I see.
And now I need to tag in the Scarlet Witch to help me start duct taping reality back together.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
So, like, they can go a number of different ways here. But either way, Loki needs to establish the rules of how you potentially break shit.
Right. There's a lot that needs to happen.
And I think that Kang the Conqueror is the perfect character to help be like, hey, just so you know, I've kind of been breaking shit. Have fun.
Yeah.
So that is my mini hypothesis.
And Femme Loki is
either complicit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
again,
the seeds to
and I'm going to keep saying other Loki just to be certain, because I don't want to hitch my wagon to that theory too hard.
Oh, come
on.
Like
I did with Mephisto the last time.
No, you can't backpedal now. Like, listen to the rest of the episode. We're already
yeah. But I think that other Loki, if Kang is involved, if Kang has more power in this situation than the other Loki, it is because Kang is either allowing it or indirectly kind of going, hey, keep doing what I need you to do. He's not giving other Loki orders. He's just, with his ability to control the timeline, going, hey, go that way. Hey, go do this.
Or you can flip it around and say that other Loki wants the position of...
I don't think other Loki would knowingly be serving Kang, is what I'm saying.
No, I don't mean serving. I mean like trying to undermine and take his power and become the next timekeeper.
Potentially. Like I said, there's a lot to mine here.
And go back and change their death.
Ooh.
Maybe. A lot of speculation. But we warned you at the beginning of that little section that we would be theorizing.
Hey, that's the most fun part for me.
Yeah.
Even when I'm completely wrong. And I'm not always wrong. Sometimes I get it. Didn't do that with WandaVision.
That's funny.
I mean, the only thing I got right about WandaVision was the one thing that everybody on the internet got right, where everybody kind of like instantaneously went, oh, that's Agatha Harkness.
Right. Right.
Like in unison.
Right. It wasn't well hidden.
It was they did a good job at hiding it. We just figured it out.
Fair enough.
But regardless, you guys can find Travis at Travis Political on Twitter and Instagram, and occasionally streaming on Twitch on Wednesday nights. Obviously, the homie's mouth do be healing, so be sure to keep an eye on his social media for updates as to when he will be back and streaming. Joel, where can the lovely people find you, friend?
Well, the lovely people can find me on Twitter at JayTheSentinel and on Instagram at Bass and Bacon Cosplay, where you can see my lovely cosplays of mainly, what was it? Obi-Wan Kenobi at one point, and then Old Man Luke was a big thing then, and then it was of course what, Empire Strikes Back Luke?
No, Return of the Jedi, Luke, dummy.
I always mix them up. Sorry, Return of the Jedi Luke. So, which I think is the best one as of yet. So hopefully in the future I can pull some more.
Eventually he's going to be going as Doctor Strange, and it's going to be amazing.
Or Arrow, one of the two.
I feel like both.
Both. All right, I'm good with both. Let's just plan it now. But
You gotta grow the goatee though. You gotta go full goatee for it for Strange.
Yeah, I don't envy that moment. But Jarod, where can the lovely people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552, and you can find the Nerd Academy Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page. Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Case and Brian, the Waffle Wizard, Delta 9, and Zach and Us. You guys help us make the content that we love to produce. Be sure to consider the $5 tier of our Patreon when you get access to Knights of the Nerd Republic's Versus series, the Nerd Academy Movie Club audio commentaries, and Heroic History 101. Be sure to consider looking at the student store link on our website to get access to all manage of Nerd Academy merch and goodies on our TeePublic. I don't know if Father's Day sale is still going on, but it might be, and it's worth looking at. With that, thank you all so very much for listening, and class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.